Welcome to this special edition of the local campaign. Of course, each and every municipal election is an important election. October 24th is the date. It's one of the most compelling municipal elections we're going to have here in this city. And what we wanted to do is sit down with those candidates that have decided not to run for re-election. And today I'm in a pretty special place, actually. I'm at the Greenboro Community Center's public library, the Ottawa Public Library, and my guest today is Diane Deans, the City Councillor for Gloucester Southgate. Diane, thank you so much for allowing us into this space to do this interview.
It's such a pleasure, and this is a public space, so you're very welcome here anytime it's open.
And we're going to talk about how special this is to you and during this conversation, but let's first start off with your decision. I'm sure it was a difficult decision. You were just talking to me about how you were speaking to some constituents downstairs and how some of them have been in tears with the, the idea that you're not going to be there. I mean, 8 consecutive elections that you have won. I mean, you're first elected in 1994. Tell me how difficult this decision was for you.
Very difficult and very emotional, and they make me cry when they come up to me and they hug me and they say, "We're mad at you, why are you leaving? And you can't leave, and can't you reconsider?" It's like, no, the deadline's passed, it's over. And it was a tough decision on a lot of levels, and I had decided after 28 years of representing this amazing ward that it was time to pass the baton, and I had really intended to run for mayor. And out here in particular, people are very disappointed that I ultimately decided not to. And that was a difficult decision too. For a long time, people had encouraged me to run for mayor, and I knew that a lot of people were in my corner in that race. But there were a number of factors, and one is I feel like the city is in a bit of a low spot right now. There's an awful lot of problems in this city, between a multi-billion-dollar train system that is not working properly, to inflation, rising taxes, ballooning debt, a housing crisis in the city, an environmental crisis, and the fixes are not quick, and they're not obvious. And I really believe that it is going to take a full 8 years, the 2 terms, to get the city back on track, literally and figuratively.
Yes, actually, that's well put.
Yes,
well put.
And I just, the more I thought about it, I thought I could do 1 term, but I didn't know that I could commit to 2. And I really think that the city needs a new leader that they can love and that will have their absolute confidence and support for that whole 8 years. And so, really for the good of the city, I made this decision that maybe it wasn't me, but a lot of people don't agree with me, I can tell you that, and they're worried. And, a lot of people wanted me to run, so it makes it just that much harder.
This was obviously the most difficult term. I mean, you just named some of the reasons, right? And then you throw the pandemic on top of that. There was a lot of division on council. You had to go virtual. So those personal one-on-one conversations didn't necessarily happen. I spoke to some other councillors. They said, that was a big part of, relationship building. Do you think that was a big part of it that created some of this division on city council?
Well, yes, I think that really contributed to it for sure, but I think it was intentional. I think that the mayor at the start of the term made a decision that this would be his last term and that this is his victory lap, if you will, and he had some bad blood with other members of council and people in the community, and I really feel that this was a payback term for him. And right out of the gate in 2018, he made a decision to sideline people that for one reason or another, either he felt they were a threat to him or he had a personal axe to grind with them. He sidelined and he put in place members of council, some very new, some that didn't have the depth and breadth of experience really to lead the major committees, and he put them in those spots really in exchange for their unquestioning agreement with pretty much everything he wanted to do for 4 years. So that made it really tough at the council table because debate was stymied. You didn't feel that you could make that good argument and get a compromise or, get a win because the decisions were all made before we ever got there. So it was definitely my most frustrating term.
Well, yeah, and then, obviously the removal of you as chair of the Ottawa Police Board during the occupation. I mean, again, here we talk about some of the things that came about that we could have never imagined. Pandemic, occupation, the storm, the tornado. I mean, it, just seemed to be like a lot of people were saying, why Ottawa? Why is this continuing? It just seemed to be like a bad luck, certainly a bad luck term. But the occupation itself, Diane, that was very difficult on yourself, and you got support, right? When you were removed. How do you think the city handled the occupation?
I think the city handled the occupation poorly. There were lots of mistakes made along the way. I can tell you, I'm going to be in a lot of books in the next few years because so many people have interviewed me. I couldn't even begin to tell you. But I think the one thing that was really clear and transparent to the public, and I hear it every day, everywhere I go, is that was just a political decision that was made by the mayor, and he had the support of council. We just talked about that. But there was no justification for the removal of myself as chair of the Police Services Board, or frankly, the entire board ended up being replaced. There was no justification. When you look at the Act, the Police Services Board operates under the Police Services Act. It's separate from council. It's deliberately separate from council. Council operates under the Municipal Act. There should not have been that kind of political interference. And the board did everything they could inside their mandate. The board did a good job. And so, I guess they wanted a scapegoat, or they wanted the fall guy, or they wanted to pay back me because I had asked them very difficult questions around Stage 2 LRT, the awarding of a contract to SNC-Lavalin for North-South that didn't meet the technical score, and I think that embarrassed some of my colleagues, but it wasn't personal. That's my job, to ask those tough questions. But this became the Freedom Convoy and the political interference. That was personal.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the LRT file. Let's talk a little bit about that file.
Yeah.
Ottawans are so disappointed in the situation, and I think a lot of people are turning to that to the P3 contract that was put in place, and honestly, some have worked, some have been successful. We look at the Bell Sensplex, things like that have been successful. A lot of people, when they look at Lansdowne and LRT, not as successful. In hindsight, do you think council, if they went back and looked at this P3, would they have done it over again?
I wouldn't.
No.
At the very beginning, when we had the first LRT, it was the project manager was really Infrastructure Ontario. That was better. It's been getting worse. This last one was Norton Rose Fulbright out of Montreal, who happened to be the lawyers for SNC-Lavalin. So, it's just too close. But we've seen with the public inquiry into phase 1 that there was really no benefit. The way it was sold to us is that we were transferring the risk from the taxpayers to the third-party consortium.
Right.
And that if there were cost overruns, if there were problems that were unanticipated, because this was a huge contract and it was very new to the municipality, that all that risk would be with the private sector partner. Well, we've seen how that worked out. We're in courts, there's millions and millions of dollars being fought over. There's all kinds of pushback. We have a train system that frankly doesn't work. It's an embarrassment. It's not serving the citizens of this city the way it was intended to serve. I have the definite impression that it just wasn't built properly. Like there's no quick fix to resolving these issues now because we probably laid the track wrong, the technology is wrong, the train sets don't work in winter or summer, or hot, or cold, or I don't know, a lot of things.
Well, some people, Diane, are saying, just take it all back and start over again. I mean, that's where some people are at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say than it is to do, because look at the money involved.
Yeah.
And, how much responsibility does each of these partners in this consortium bear? And, it'll be years sorting out that mess. But at the end of the day, we need a public transit system that serves the city. And, we were talking a little bit about the pandemic. Well, the pandemic has changed a lot too. Changed commuting patterns.
Absolutely.
And so our ridership has gone way down, and we really need to consider how ridership is going to go way up, because we're also talking about the environment. Well,
right.
We can't have everybody purchasing cars and wanting more roads, because that's not environmentally friendly.
Well, and we've built it to bring really people from the suburbs to the downtown core, and now you've got a workspace where many people are going to be working from home and they won't be commuting, using public transit. How do you get ridership back? People get, people are, they like to have, they get into habits, right? And one of those habits is, I like getting in my car, I'm by myself, I get to listen to music and have my commute to work. How do we get those people back onto a system that they don't feel is reliable or on time, right? Properly maintained?
Or safe.
Yeah, safe in general, absolutely. You know what? We're talking about negatives. Let's talk about positives, right?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, 1994, first elected, 8 terms later. Here you are making the decision not to run again, but you've had a lot of accomplishments, and this space that we're in right now is one of those accomplishments. Tell me about this particular space.
So I was on the Community Association before I got elected in 1994, and one of the things that we had long talked about was having a library branch, because this community at that time, almost 30 years ago, was a young community. It was newly built. There were all kinds of young families here. And I was the mother of a 4-year-old. And I recognized, as did all of the other families in the neighborhood, the need for a public library. And so we've been promoting that. And we'd had the people from the public library out and told us, there's a library coming. Anyway, I ran for council and was fortunate to be elected in 1994. And one of the first things I discovered is there was no plan for a library. There was no funding mechanism in place. There was no intention in the long-term financial documents to build a library here. There was nothing. And so I set out on what was really a 12-year undertaking, from getting it on the books to getting it designed to getting council. Actually, I just wore them down. I whined about it so much. After 12 years, they just give her the damn library and shut her up. It was a bit like that.
Yeah.
I can get really teary about these bricks and mortar, because I guess it's not the beautiful wood and the beautiful library that we're sitting in, but it's the hope and the future, that it's the equalizer. It's the place where all these young ethnic families can come, and their kids can have access to technology and to books, and open the future to everyone. And that's what I see libraries. And I think libraries are hugely important. And I'm proud of the fight I put up.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people probably say, with technology now, what do you need a library? And everyone's getting their books delivered or whatnot, and they're using their tablets to read books. But coming in here, I saw families, right, wanting to come in. This is a communal space, right? It's a community space where people get to to meet their neighbors. Right?
Well, and there's all kinds of programming here. Like if you go downstairs, there's a dinosaur that's on the wall that is all just done. And I think it was in this summer's program, the summer camp program for kids. There's always programming here. There's tons of opportunity here. And, I don't think libraries will ever be obsolete. Libraries will change as time changes and as people change and their needs change, but the library will always be central to community. And this library has been hugely successful. People still thank me for the effort I made to get this library.
Yeah. What about other accomplishments, highlights you look back on your terms?
I look back, there's lots of bricks and mortar. This community center that's attached here, I got that expanded too through a lot of effort and maybe some good timing. I'm really proud of the work I did in one of the lower income communities in my ward, Hetherington. I had actually been to Georgia, and I had gone on a trip through a community called Eastlake, which was very much like Hetherington, and they had done a transformational project there to make it a healthy community. And it wasn't about displacing low-income families, it was about embracing low-income families, but making sure that they had all of the necessary pieces for success. And I came back and I said to my staff, see at Eastlake, we're doing that in Hetherington. And so I just took on that project, ended up being called Building Better Revitalized Communities. Okay. And through that project, we got a Sens rink, got a new community kitchen. I had also years before fought to get the recreation center built there, because before it was just portables. So we got a new recreation center, and then we added a community kitchen to it, and then we got a Sens rink, and the city had planned to sell off the old works yard for, I guess, more low-income housing, but I managed to get that protected, and now there's a Boys and Girls Club standing on it, which makes me really proud. And we did complete streets through Hetherington, so we really have transformed that neighborhood, and I'm really proud of that, because I've always felt that I've never been on council to take up a seat. I've always been on council to make a difference, and I can drive through that neighborhood and really see the difference that I have helped to bring about with community. Nobody does anything alone. You do it with community. But I have definitely been a leader here, and I'm proud of that. So those are all the sort of bricks and mortar. Mm-hmm. But I'm also proud of how I've championed women's issues. Early on in my career, there was a time when there wasn't a single woman firefighter in the city of Ottawa, not one.
Wow.
And I know, hard to believe, but that was in my time on council. And I started looking into that, and there was a councillor, her name was Elizabeth Arnold, and the two of us took a motion. This was pre-amalgamation Ottawa. We took a motion to City Council. The way they did it at the time is they would do a qualification list. So in order to be employed as a firefighter in the City of Ottawa, you had to fully qualify. You had to meet all the physical strength tests and all of those. There were several women on the list, but they were never at the top. They were ranked, and so they'd be on the list, but we'd call the first 20 at a time. They were never there, so they would never get called. So Elizabeth Arnold and I took a motion to City Council to hire the women. The list, there were 3 at the time on that list, and it passed, and we hired them. And that opened the door to women, because then what started to become apparent was that these tests were designed by men for men.
Right.
And some of the things that they were characteristics they were looking for in a firefighter may not have been the right characteristics. They were all sort of strength and endurance more than they were ability to relate to people that were experiencing a crisis, to relate to children who were standing on the street where their parents were in the house, you know, like there are other qualities that you need. And so over time, across North America, they have changed the criteria, and so more women are now accessing jobs inside the fire department. But for me, that was, you know, that was something that was a seminal moment because it changed the course of firefighting in Ottawa. And, you know, I've been a big promoter of women's rights for my whole 28 years. Last term, Councillor Catherine McKenney and I pushed to get a women's directorate here, which we achieved. And so, and they've been doing amazing work. So, I really feel proud of that.
Any projects, Diane, that you know, as you leave council, you said, geez, you know, this is one that I wish I had gotten through. Any come to mind?
You know, not too many. I mean, I just ran into a woman downstairs from the Mosque of Mercy. They have 8,000 members at the mosque here. It's a very ethnically diverse part of the city of Ottawa that I represent. And she was just telling me they named their homework club after me.
Really?
Yeah, because
Nice.
of all that. I know, it's sweet. So, like, I feel like, I feel there's always more to do.
Right.
Always more to do. Like, I can think of 100 things. Like, I'd like to get this on Mill Creek pool rebuilt. I've been working on that a long time. The next member of council will take that baton and run with it. Like, you can't, the work is never finished. So at some point, you just have to hand it off to somebody else and hope that they're the right person that will continue the work. But I think one of the things I'm most proud of is how I've brought people together. Like, I've focused on seniors issues here, I've focused on women's issues, I've focused on issues of you know, equality and ethnic diversity, and I've tried to really bring this community together, and I think I've been pretty successful. So I'm really proud of my time. I mean, if I had one regret, it might be that I didn't run for mayor a little sooner.
Okay, interesting. Will
Yeah.
you be throwing your support behind any candidate running in your ward or any mayoral candidate?
Well, for sure in my ward, for sure I'm supporting Jessica Bradley. She's my executive assistant. She's been my right hand for the last 10 years. She knows everything about this ward I know. She has the same values that I have. I think she has the same desire to carry on the work, and I think she's the obvious choice. So I've been out campaigning with her, and I think the community, like everywhere I go, they're worried. They're like, we don't know who to vote for. We don't know what to do. It's like, Jessica is the obvious choice. She will carry on this legacy, and she will take it in new directions and put her own spin on it, and I think that's healthy. So it's an easy choice for me. I think that she's the person that has the knowledge and the experience and the deep understanding of the relationships in this community that will carry on the work that I've been doing.
As far as mayor goes,
you know, there's three front runners in the race. Bob Shirelli, who I have worked with as mayor in the past, and you know, Bob and I disagreed on a lot of things, but I have great respect and admiration for Bob Shirelli, and he was a unifier as a mayor. He used to talk about getting in the same boat and rowing in the same direction. We could get it all done. And I really do think that council needs a unifier. So that's Bob. Then there's Mark Sutcliffe, who I don't know as well, but I respect Mark. And I think, you know, as an outsider coming in, he knows a lot about City Hall because he's been covering it, sort of like you, Derek. And, you know, I think that he has a lot to offer. And, you know, he's been picking my brain, and I'm happy to let anybody that wants to pick my brain pick it away. So, you know, I think that he has a lot of good qualities. And then there's Catherine McKenney that I have worked with on council. I've worked closely with them, and I think that they bring, you know, sort of a refreshing opportunity for change. And some people are concerned about that, and some people are embracing it. And it will be interesting to see ultimately what the community thinks. And I don't think the community knows yet. I think they really want to see the platforms. I really want to see the platforms. I want to understand how they accomplish what they set out to accomplish. I mean, I know Catherine quite well, and I think that they will focus on the emergencies that we have in Ottawa, like the housing emergency and the environmental emergency. Catherine and I worked very closely together on getting the LRT inquiry, which, you know, Mayor Watson and his supporters on council did not want, but we needed. Catherine is strong. They have a lot of, I think, compelling things to bring to the table. So, you know, all three of them, I know them really well.
No, I respect that.
I like them, and it's kind of tough for me.
Any plans for the immediate future?
No.
Okay.
I'm thinking Rogers Television.
Maybe. All right,
No,
you come co-host with me on daytime?
Okay, all right.
Why not?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
It's such a good question. My husband says I'm going to drive him crazy if I don't have something to do, which I'm pretty sure is true. But I can't not do anything because that's just not my nature. And I'm all about community, so I want to do something that's community related. And, you know, I don't want to stop. I just need to do something a little different than I've done in the past. So people say, oh, you'll have lots of opportunities. Well, I hope that's true. I'm not sure if that's true yet. I haven't really turned my sights to it yet because I've actually been busy. My new job this last few months has been testifying in public inquiries and being interviewed for books, mostly around the Freedom Convoy and LRT.
Really?
A lot of people seem to like to know what I think on those two topics.
Maybe you'll write your own book.
Well, people keep telling me I should write a book. Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, a lot of people.
It's not easy, right?
No, it's not easy.
Yeah,
and
people
I've never
think it
written
is, but it's very
before,
difficult.
and
Yeah.
like there's a lot of people here that have written books, but I'm not one of them. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, maybe I could get a book on the shelf.
Exactly. Right?
That would sort of complete the library.
There you go. There you go. Very quickly, 60 seconds left. What would you like to say to, you know, the citizens of Ottawa, your constituents?
Thank you. You know, makes me teary, but it has been the honor and pleasure of my life. 28 years in this city, and I love this city, and I love the people and the citizens, and I just hope that we continue to build just the magnificent city that this place really is.
Well, as you said, 28 years. I mean, what an incredible accomplishment. You know, on behalf of myself and everyone at Rogers TV, you know, we've had so many interviews with you over the years, and we really respect you. And I've always said to people that people don't understand the commitment that is necessary to be in government, and I would say in particular in municipal government. So thank you for your service to this city, you know, after all these years, Diane, and thanks for sitting down and doing this with us.
Oh, it's great. I enjoyed it. That was a quick 28 minutes.
Thanks again.
Okay.